wasn't the first person offered my job, which they didn't know I knew. I know the guy, he's a friend of mine who was offered my job first. And,
in this show?
Yes, yeah.
Didn't know that.
And he would have been fabulous.
You're on a roll at the moment, aren't you?
Well, actually, I'm on a roll. I've given up acting. All I do is talk about White Lotus, and that's all I'm doing for the next month.
It's such a big show, though, isn't
And then
it?
something else is coming out, and at some point I'll have to get behind a camera and pretend to be someone else again. One of the things I don't like about watching most television, even incredibly well-made television, is that you have a sense that someone has pushed the boat out and they're hoping it never lands again. But Mike White's telling stories with beginnings, middles and ends. Every season are full stories. And so part of the joy, when friends ask me what's going to happen or who is it that dies, and of course they stop halfway through the sentence. They don't really want me to tell them because he's a guy that knows how to pace, like a great Torch song. Yeah. He knows when to belt the chorus, and he's saving it, keeping his powder dry. You know, you film with the sun and the islands and stuff in the background. They've got to orient the boat just right. It's moving. Yeah. So they would go, it was insanely hot. So we all ran into this little air-conditioned cabin and they'd go, quick, the sun's in the right place. At one point, the crew were very bored because they had nothing to do. They normally work. And so they just cleaned the windows all the time. Yeah. At one point they went, Jason, we need you! And I went sprinting up to the set and I didn't see the clean glass door. Knocked myself out, literally knocked myself out, split my head open. Slightly controversial, the accent-ish, in that lots of people online who don't know what Durham, North Carolina is, keep going, he's rubbish, it's the worst accent I've ever heard, he sounds Australian. Actually, Durham's got two vowel sounds hung over from when it was a colony, and they're two completely upper-class English vowels. One's a diphthong, one's a short, just to get really geeky.
This guy.
And I do it right, as the people from Durham tell me online, but all the other millions of people online who think I'm getting it wrong really annoy me.
Virgin Radio.
Jason Isaacs is here. Cue Jason's... Don't you worry about it, Jason. Sit down, you're a busy man. Give Jason his big intro, please, Vass, if you don't mind.
Next guest is the award-winning actor who's always brilliant, from Harry Potter to Cary Grant. He's now starring in and Starkers in the new season 3 of The White Lotus, with new episodes every Monday on Sky Atlantic and Now TV. So please join us as we hasten to Jason Isaacs.
All right, Jason.
Oh, look at that.
How you doing?
Alliteration and all that stuff. Well, I'm late because I came back from America yesterday and I slept right through my alarm, and I'm sorry. But
no,
don't
worry about it. It's great to see you. You don't look like you've got jet lag. You don't look like you've just got off a plane. I know you've had some sleep in between. What a show! What a show! What a show!
What a show! Yeah.
Come on, mate. It's so good, isn't it?
It is quite. I'm thrilled that we're in the middle of the season now, because I'd seen it all, and I know that Mike tells this story, this beautiful pace, and once it gets going, it really gets nuts. And now we're at the point where it really kicks in.
Yeah.
I think,
So it's like a big it's like a big hearty stew on the back burner. It's been simmering and simmering and simmering, and then episode 4/5, whilst you're upstairs cleaning the cat, one of the kids has turned the hob up to 10, and then you re-enter the kitchen and all hell has broken loose, and that's where we are.
Well, I think the last line last night is my kids going off to the full moon party going, word I can't say in the morning, is going to get crazy, and it does.
It does get crazy. Your character, as I watch your character, everybody around your character as well, because Mike White's a genius, of course he is. It's an ensemble piece, it's a beautiful ensemble piece. Everybody gets their moment in the sun, if not more.
They really do.
But watching your character, who is constantly on the verge of having a heart attack. I suspect he might have one in episode 5, 6, 7 and 8.
If you think he's having a bad time so far.
I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack just watching this guy. Just frame his character for us, please.
He is one of those titans of industry, where he comes from, Durham, North Carolina. He's a huge figure there. They go back probably to the Mayflower, and he's a gazillionaire, looked up to by his family and the entire community, and everything that he is in the world and of his to other people is not just threatened, but looks like it's going to be erased, and that is not an enjoyable experience for him, and he has probably the worst holiday anyone's had in the history of holidays.
Oh, wow. I mean, come on.
I've started popping my wife's pills now as well.
Yeah, you've started popping your wife's pills. So it's a 35-hour journey to get to White Lotus for this particular family. That's what it's taken them. And what can happen in 35 hours? So he leaves his idyll, his wonderful life on paper, and then he lands and it all starts to go wrong, but thousands of miles away on the other end of a phone that you're not really allowed to have in this sort of paradise of a
wellness
spa.
retreat. Yeah.
And he clings onto his phone, and it's just that it's mad what can come through the phone. I mean, that's the metaphor there, isn't it? Or the lesson there.
Well, the thing about Mike, you're absolutely right. We skip over the fact he's a genius, but he really is. There's very few people writing the way he writes. He's chosen to set this series in Thailand because it's where people go to find some kind of spiritual relief, or to kind of search for their inner selves and pursue Buddhism, but through the prism of their insane money and the fact that they think in 3 days they can buy different levels of enlightenment. But he brings to them, certainly to my character, but various people, everybody in it is confronted with who they really are when they're stripped away.
Yeah.
All the external things are stripped away.
Yeah, because they go to this idyllic spa, to get away from their material life. But of course, it's the most material hotel you could ever go to in the world, apart from the other two White Lotuses.
Yeah. No, it wasn't bad. I have to say, staying there, it wasn't. Although you do wake up thinking, I'm in a guilt cage. Groundhog Day. You're not going to sunbathe. You don't want another massage. I've been out on a boat, and you go, oh wow, we've got 6 months left now.
Right.
So, not that anybody should be feeling sorry for me, but it wasn't as much fun as you might think.
No, I know. And your wife went out there and she felt the same way, didn't she, about it?
Well, it was like 100. Do we use Fahrenheit or centigrade? What do you use nowadays?
What's that?
Either way, it was insanely hot.
Yeah.
And you're covered in mosquitoes and there's bites, and you're covered in makeup and clothes, and so it's not that you're going to jump in the sea or a pool. So it was like working in a sauna all day every day.
Yeah, and there's that massive gap between the people working there and the people that are staying there, and that's
That
what
was the
Michael
other
White's
thing,
show's all about, isn't it? Both series so far have been about that.
They are, and that was the thing about being there. Some people didn't leave the enclave where we were shooting for 7 months, but we did. My wife and I did. And we travel around a lot, and Thailand is a place with, a bit like India, enormous contrasts, and it makes it much more. You feel much more guilt and shame when you go back to this ludicrously luxurious place when you know what's going on outside the walls.
Yeah, and you couldn't take that in with your character, because he has to be sort of ignorant of that to carry on his stupid pursuit.
No,
of
he's the
things.
very epitome of privilege and entitlement, or maybe my wife is slightly more, but both of us are.
By the way, you say my wife, you're not your wife.
No, my wife is very much not. She's the opposite of Parker Posey's character.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she is incredible. But my children. So the thing that why do we like to watch rich people have a terrible time? I don't know, but maybe to be reminded that we don't need to be jealous of the people whose lives look shinier than us. But also because there are things that are universal, and I am a dad in it ultimately, and I look at my kids and I think, what have I done? How are they going to? How am I going to cope with no money in prison? But how are they going to cope when we get home and they don't have the lives that they think that they're due? Yeah,
and Dad's not as great as they think he is.
No, that's the thing. He's an icon. There are statues to his relatives everywhere. His granddad was governor, and I'm so tempted to tell you what's coming in the show.
Don't,
I probably shouldn't tell you what's coming in the show.
Yeah, because there are brilliant articles, and you've given some amazing interviews. Congratulations on just giving great interviews.
Just talking
in
nonsense
the Times.
forever.
No, you haven't. And in Entertainment Weekly. And what's lovely about the people who've written these articles is they say at the top of the article, I've never seen this before in written print interviews. This article does contain spoilers for episodes 3 and 4, which is so cool they've done that, because it does, and you don't want it to, or you don't want to.
Well, one of the things I don't like about watching most television, even incredibly well-made television, is that you have a sense that someone has pushed the boat out and they're hoping it never lands again. But Mike White's telling stories with beginnings, middles and ends. Every season are full stories. And so part of the joy, when friends ask me what's going to happen or who is it that dies, and of course they stop halfway through the sentence. They don't really want me to tell them, because he's a guy that knows how to pace, like a great torch song. He knows when to belt the chorus, and he's saving it, keeping his powder dry.
And he does actually push the boat out, and it's a really big boat.
Oh my God, that's right.
Tell us about that boat. It's a catamaran, isn't it?
We were on a billionaire's yacht, super yacht, which, by the way, only ever rented, apart from us, to oligarchs, to big Russian gangsters, essentially. And I asked the crew, I said, what's it like having a sail? And they said, well, it's nice not to have the gangsters and all the guns. And I said, and who else do you rent to? And there was a kind of blank pause, and I went, no one. They went, no, that's all we do. And I went, and they come with their families? And then they go, no, they come with prostitutes. And I went, right. And how's that? And they go, well, the most terrifying thing about it is you don't want to clean their room because there are bags of millions of dollars in there, and they might accuse you of stealing, but they do tip well.
They say the shadiest people wear the shiniest suits. It's a lovely phrase, actually.
Yeah, so it was nice being on the boat, but there was a day when, because you film with the sun and the islands and stuff in the background, they've got to orient the boat just right. It's moving. Yeah. So they would go, it was insanely hot. So we all ran into this little air-conditioned cabin, and they'd go, quick, the sun's in the right place. At one point, the crew were very bored because they had nothing to do. They normally work. And so they just cleaned the windows all the time. Yeah. At one point, they went, Jason, we need you. And I went sprinting up to the set, and I didn't see the clean glass door. Oh, no! Knocked myself out, literally knocked myself out, split my head open, pouring with blood, huge lump on my head. I was incredibly embarrassed. There's a whole crew there. And I went, it's fine, someone in the scene can just give me a hat. They went, It's not going to work like that. We're shooting the bit that happened earlier.
Yeah, and also you're full of adrenaline because you just hit your head and you're like, it's going to be fine. You go, no, Jason, you need to lie down. You might have a concussion. Have you ever done that? Have you ever run into a plate glass window? I've done it. It's the most, because you have no idea what's happened. No. Do you? You think, what the heck was that?
I passed out. I was caught by the second AD,
Our Labrador, just a couple of weeks ago, wanted to go through our glass doors because she didn't know it was glass, chasing a squirrel in the garden, and went into the glass doors. And then 3 minutes later, poor thing, she did exactly the same again. She's not the brightest.
No, it's the frontal lobe issue. They don't have them, do they? Which is why they can be so happy on the sofa for most of their lives, unlike the rest of us. So, Jason, you actually auditioned for this, which is not something you.
No, I don't.
You don't mind doing it, clearly, because you did it, but it's not something you've done for a while.
I mean, it was for Mike White and White Lotus. And also, I quite like auditioning. I mean, this is not an invitation to people to make me audition when they'd like to make me an offer. But one of the reasons is on the first day on set, normally, if you've been offered the job, which is what normally happens to me, there's always a certain anxiety. You look over at the monitor and there's the director and producer huddled whispering and you think, they're going to come over and go, we've made a terrible mistake. I had no idea that's what you were going to do. But the irony, or not the irony, the weird and ironic thing about this audition is I got a phone call going, you have to go and put yourself on tape. You're the only candidate, which means all you can do is mess it up and not get the job. And they gave me the address. It was in New York, and I was in New York anyway, publicising Archie. So I walked to this audition, because you walk everywhere in New York, and I walked through Times Square, where I was on like 8 billboards, and go, people might look up there and think, well, he's made it, and I'm not, so I'm going to an office right now and put myself on tape, and I became the same stumbling, nervous idiot that I used to be when I auditioned in my 20s.
So it's not changed?
No, nothing's changed at all.
What did you do for the audition?
I had to read a scene, not knowing what the story was or what happened, because they just gave you 2 pieces of paper. And they said, don't worry, you don't need to do the accent. But I knew he was from Durham because someone had told me that. And so I'd studied it up and I did the accent.
So this is Durham,
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
It's been slightly controversial, the accent-ish, in that lots of people online who don't know what Durham, North Carolina is, keep going, he's rubbish, it's the worst accent I've ever heard, he sounds Australian. Actually, Durham's got 2 vowel sounds hung over from when it was a colony, and they're 2 completely upper-class English vowels. One's a diphthong, one's a short, just to get really geeky.
This guy.
And I do it right, as the people from Durham tell me online, but all the other millions of people online who think I'm getting it wrong really annoy me.
Well, we only care about the people from Durham, don't we?
Well, that's all I care about, but it is annoying because there are people online, I don't know why I read these comments, but you always sift through, if you're an idiot like me, you sift through for people saying something negative. Right. You breeze past anyone saying anything nice and you look for the negative things. And there are people who think I get it wrong and I sound Australian, which I really don't.
No, we have people who have asked about this. Joe in Carlisle, first of all, says, I love Jason, everything that he's done, absolutely everything. Please can you ask him which of his projects has been the most captivating to be part of? This has got to be up there, hasn't it?
Well, it was up there. There was a lot of much more time off than I've ever had. Actually, a film called Mass was the most intense thing I've ever done because you never break out the bubble. It was 10 days of heartbreak, and there's something really joyous about crying all day every day.
You came in for that, I remember.
I did come in for that.
Was great.
That was a really wonderful script. If you're really lucky, 1 in every 5, 1 in every 10 as an actor is really worth watching.
Said in the article in the Times, which was brilliant, that you played about 40 baddies. Is that about right?
That was out of context. Actually, the guy said, what's it like always playing baddies? And I said, well, I've done 200 about 200 parts, and only I was looking through, somewhere between 30 and 40 antagonists, so there's 170 times I haven't been that, and that was not as good a headline as the pull quote, which says I played 40 baddies. So, yeah.
It got me to the party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're often the best part. If you're not Tom Cruise, it's the best part in the film. I mean, the best part of The Patriot.
Right, now, it's funny you should mention Tom Cruise. Over to you,
because he's under the table.
Yes, Here we go.
I was wondering which was Patrick Schwarzenegger, Arnold's son. I watched episode 1 last night because we found out that you were coming in, and I
watched all 4. I don't mind.
Can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. Yeah. But then when I found out, I said, doesn't he look a little bit more like Tom Cruise than Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Much. Tom Cruise comes up to his hip for a start.
Yeah. Are you questioning his?
No, I'm really not.
Let me tell you something about Patrick Schwarzenegger, though, because you would assume, being what they now call a Nepo baby, which is a slightly repulsive phrase, but anyway, I assumed I was going to meet some horrible, spoilt young prince of Hollywood. One of the nicest, most grounded, humble, lovely people I've ever met in my life. Become a very good friend.
You see the Arnie documentary on Netflix?
I did see that, and he knows exactly who his dad is, and he loves him for what he is, and but he does know who he is. He's not blinded to Arnie's faults as well. He's just a really wonderful young man. All the people who played my kids in it, I fell completely in love with. And what was old is my real children arrived, and they bonded with them because they're closer to their age, and made me realise that my closest friends on the shoot, I was old enough to be their father.
Yeah, so cool. And he's a great actor. I mean, why wouldn't he be?
Terrific.
But everybody has to. The thing about people being great. So we're talking about Taylor Sheridan, talking about Yellowstone over the last few weeks in 1883 and 1923 and Landman and all those other great shows.
All the other prime numbers.
That Sheridan does, yes, exactly. And he seems to cast people in roles, and the script, look, he's Taylor Sheridan, for example, and he's Michael White, for example. So the script, the words are already there, but he doesn't ever seem to get the casting wrong.
Well,
and nobody sort of falls foul of not being as good as everybody else in the piece.
No, I mean, not to criticise myself or anybody else, but brilliant writing makes actors look good for a start. And also, there's an uncredited superhero behind Mike called Dave Bernard, who is his producer, but a very creative part of the whole thing. Not of writing it necessarily, but a lot of input in everything, including casting. And I think I was cast in this because he saw me in Death of Stalin. God knows what the overlap is between Death of Stalin and Tim Ratcliffe, but whatever. Ours not a reason why. And I think Dave is very instrumental in it. But really, I think they're all fabulous, and I'm thrilled to be in it. Brilliant writing makes people look good.
How does one?
I wasn't the first person offered my job, which they didn't know I knew. I know the guy, he's a friend of mine who was offered my job first. And,
in this show?
Yes, yeah.
Didn't know that.
And he would have been fabulous.
All right, who was it?
No, that I think
was it Tom Cruise?
Too far.
How does one communicate a note to Jason Isaacs on set?
Well, Mike is he gets a lot of credit for being a fantastic writer. People forget he directs it.
Yes.
It's a huge part of why it works is the atmosphere he creates on set. He sits behind a monitor. He's absolutely demonic. He shrieks with laughter is one way of describing it, but it's a loose term, the noise he makes. And then he gets empowered. He starts shouting things out from behind the monitor. Try this, try it, and pushing you to ever more crazy and offensive extremes. And unlike every other director I've ever worked with, all the actors end up just giving him a huge variety of performances so he can choose the tone later, because it's all about him juggling tone with these different stories. Normally as an actor you're hired partly for your decisions. Like, I think this is what this guy is going to do at this point. When you put it all together you'll see that it's a whole. But with him, I gave him, and we all did, in every scene, every single choice. But the other thing he does, he comes out from behind the monitor like Columbo, like Peter Falk. Comes out. Oh, this is going to sound like a non sequitur. My daughter, who's only 19, directed a play at college, and somebody asked her when I was around, how do you direct actors? She said, well, it's the same with everybody. It's a compliment sandwich, isn't it? And he came out. He came out every time.
19?
Yeah. And he came out, Mike, behind the monitor every time with everybody and went, awesome, amazing, great, cool, let's go again. And then as he's walking away, he turns around, like Columbo, goes, if we go again, just if we're going again, but what about? And then he gently offers something up as if it's just occurred to him. It's the note he always had, but it's so gently offered that, you go, oh, maybe people who didn't realise that was the note were fools, because he's a brilliant actor. He played everybody's part. Right. And he would come up, sometimes you see him talking to himself before he gave the note and playing all the parts in the scene. And then he came over and he goes, what about? And then if you didn't do exactly what he said, you're a fool, because his performance is better than anybody's.
That's so good, isn't it? So good. Because they say there are two types of people. There are pack animals and there are herd animals, pack human beings and herd human beings. Right. And often herds live in the city and pack animals tend to live out of the city. Do you think that producers, directors are the pack animals and the actors are the herd, or the other way around?
I don't know. I'm struggling to follow that metaphor in any way and apply it to the people that I know, but the way he works. I think that there's two types. For me, there's two types of directors that when you're on set by the monitor. First of all, like brilliant actor Brad Whitford. You know Brad Whitford, who was in The West Wing and Get Out. He played Josh.
I've got to say I don't, but I'm
you know his face immediately. Anyway, he says there's three things any actor thinks. I don't know how established you are. Then they say cut and the director walks towards you, first of all you think, I can't swear. It's very hard to say. He goes, forget you. And then you think, I am so crap at my job. And then you think, all right, what? Because you're so vulnerable. At any point, someone can walk up and go, that's what you're doing? I don't believe a word of it. But for me, it's binary. There's two types of people. There's ones who stand by the monitor and go, what amazing thing are you going to do? Well, I can't wait to see what magic you bring. And Mike does that. He takes his writer's hat off and he puts his or the directors who think, how are you going to mess up this scene? I've got it in my head already. What can I come and correct you're doing wrong? No. And they both work, but Mike is someone who just gets joy out of what he's watching, and you're lifted up on that joy.
They do both work, but the other one doesn't galvanise, does it? The latter doesn't galvanise as the first one does. And when you get a proper gang show, that does come across on screen. You get it. You can see when everybody's getting on with each other because nobody hogs the scene.
Everyone's empowered.
Everybody's empowered, and everybody's trying to make the other person better in the scene, and that of course makes them better, and then everybody wins.
What we're all trying to get is Mike behind the camera to go, That's what you really want.
Yeah,
Then you've won. My daughter said something when we came back from America to live in England. She didn't enjoy school. She did incredibly well and had a fabulous academic career. And I said, why are you so miserable at school? She said, all they did in America, Daddy, was tell me what I was getting right and encourage me. And all they do in English schools is tell me what I'm getting wrong and correct me. And she still did well, but she's right. That's the difference. And that's the difference between great directors.
Yeah. You're on a roll at the moment, aren't you?
Well, actually, I'm on a roll. I've given up acting. All I do is talk about White Lotus. And that's all I'm doing for the next month.
It's such a big show, though, isn't it?
And then something else is coming out. And at some point, I'll have to get behind a camera and pretend to be someone else again.
Yeah. Do you have a pretend role in your sites? Do you have...
There is, but the independent film sector was really struggling. So many of the films I was meant to do got pushed to the beginning of the year, and then got pushed to the middle of the year. And now just one little piece of the jigsaw waiting. So, yes, there's all kinds of things I'm hoping they do, but no.
So you got off a plane, you went to bed, and you came to see us this morning. Yet you seem energized because you're talking about something. Because if you are doing something that isn't good and isn't right, and you're working hard at it, you end up exhausted. If you're doing something that is good and is right, you are tired, but you're not exhausted. It's a different kind of thing.
It's true, but you get your energy from the other people in the scene. And I get my energy from you. I don't know how you get up every single morning. You always seem, when I come in, enthusiastic. It's a skill about whatever it is I'm talking
before
about.
That, horror is hell in here.
You pick up on other people's energy.
No, you absolutely do, 100%. So, Jason, the Dr. Lucy in Bristol says, big up to do with your accent. So good in White Lotus. But Lucy is from Bristol. So
I know. What does she know?
Yeah, what does she know? I'm not sure. The last time you were on telly here, other than in White Lotus, was for the Oscars, for the show.
Oh, God, yeah.
The overnight show. Yeah. Now it was
I didn't want to stay all night because I don't think it's an actor's job to start criticising other actors, or directors, particularly since I might like to work with them in the future.
Yeah, but Ali Ross in The Sun says you were the hero of the night because you were just so honest all the way through. And then you said to Jonathan, "What's the next category?" I only hear this second hand. What's the next? Oh, you said after 3 hours. Oh God, Jonathan, what's the next category?
Short it was,
Animated short. You said, and then apparently you said, "Right, I'm off," and you just got up and left.
No, they always knew I was leaving at midnight. I had because I was working the next morning.
Oh, it doesn't make the stories
No,
quite
I'm so
good.
sorry. No, I wouldn't have just walked out the studio. I was planning to leave, and then if it was something I knew I wanted to talk about, but I hadn't seen any of the films. God, did it look like I just decided to?
I don't know, but it made for good copy. It made me even like you even more, and that's sort of impossible.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, obviously.
All right. So awards-wise, so the first series of White Lotus received 20 Emmy nominations.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've had a Grammy with a tune here and there.
Yep.
By the way, the soundtrack is the most original soundtrack.
About the Grammys, they had a karaoke night there, and I thought, I'm amongst friends, and Natasha starts singing like Aretha Franklin.
Right.
For the guy who plays Fabian, Christian, starts singing. We turn our heads, go, what the hell? He's had 6 rock albums out. Then Tame, who plays Guy Tock in it, the one who has the romance with Lisa. Yeah. He won the Thai version of American Idol, and I went, you know what? Take me off the list. I'm not singing. They're all too good.
You don't need that. This is amongst other awards. White Lotus first series was nominated for 20 awards, won 13. Yeah. Series 2 nominated for 23 awards, won 15. So you better get ready for some awards.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe this is the third album problem.
No, what? Michael White does.
It is a weird thing, though, that I like to do work to do good work and then maybe gather good work from it. But my contemporaries who I'm on text threads with, it is all about who's going to get awards and who's going to get a sneaker endorsement or a tequila campaign and stuff.
I get it.
And nobody's sharing about, I met this fabulous director yet. Let's hope that happens.
You reminded me of Mr. Beast over the weekend. So Mr. Beast was asked on a podcast what advice would he give his former self, and you wrote a letter to your younger self, didn't you? As part of your
big issue. I can't remember was that what it was. No, it was something else.
And it put me in mind of Mr. Beast's answer was, what advice would you give your younger self? And he simply said, buy Bitcoin. Which just made me laugh.
I met a bunch of film students yesterday and they said, what should we do? And I was with their professor, who's Mark Kermode's wife, Linda, and I went, use AI, learn to use AI. It is how we're going to make films, so you learn to be able to use it. And she went, not for your essays.
Yeah, it's funny because they say AI will not replace your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI will replace you if you don't learn pretty
Anyone who
quickly.
thinks it's not going to replace a lot of jobs has never touched it and doesn't understand what it does.
Jason, thanks for bothering this morning.
I know, it's great.
Really
I'm thrilled to be in
mate.
nice things, good things, and I'm glad you always watch them, which is great.
Yeah, we love it. White Lotus Series 3 available now on Sky and Now TV.